There is a specific kind of silence that falls over a house when the master has been gone too long, a silence where the dust motes dancing and the sunbeams seem louder than the voices of the living. It is in this suffocating quiet that we find one of the most formidable figures in all of human history, not standing on a battlefield wielding a sword, but sitting in a dimly lit room, her hands moving with the rhythmic, hypnotic repetition of a weaver. This is the story of Penelope, the woman who held a kingdom together with nothing but thread, and it reminds us that in a world of brute force, the quiet, enduring intellect is often the strongest weapon of all. To understand the weight of this moment, we must look to the bronze-swept halls of ancient Greece and the grand, tragic cycle of the Trojan War. The cosmos of the Greeks was one of Cleos, a glory won in Battlia, and of Nostos, the perilous journey home. The greatest of all the warriors was Odysseus, the sacker of cities, the man of many turns, who had left his rocky island of Ithaca 20 years ago to fight a war for Helen of Troy. The war is over. The heroes are home or dead. But Odysseus is missing. The seas have swallowed him, or the gods have hidden him. In his absence, the structure of his world begins to rot. His son, Telemachus, is a beardless youth, not yet strong enough to command. His father, Laertes, has retreated to the country in grief. And in the royal hall, the wolves are at the door. They are the suitors, 108 arrogant princes from the surrounding islands. Men who consume Odysseus as livestock, drink his wine, and harass his servants, all while pressuring his wife to abandon hope and choose a new husband. They believe they are entitled to the crown. They believe the woman is helpless. They have never been more wrong. Enter Penelope. She is not a weeping willow, nor is she a passive damsel. She is the daughter of King Icarius of Sparta, cousin to the infamous Helen, raised in the politics of power. She understands that to survive a siege of patriarchy, one must appear to yield while secretly undermining the aggressor. She does not meet them with a sword. She meets them with a smile and a loom. The suitors demand she marry. She agrees. But first, she tells them, custom dictates she must weave a burial shroud for her elderly father-in-law, Laertes. It is a sacred duty, a pious act that no Greek man would dare deny without bringing down the wrath of the Furies. They accept her terms, and so begins the great labor of the queen. Day after day, she descends to the hall where she sits at her great loom. The suitors watch her, mesmerized by the industrious virtue of the woman they wish to possess. By day, the sound of the shuttle is constanta, a rhythmic thwick thrum that echoes through the palace like a heartbeat. She weaves a shroud of supreme quality, a fine tapestry fit for a king. She weaves it wide, she weaves it long. She tells the men, when this is finished, I will choose. But here lies the genius of the stratagem. It is a duel of wits played in moonlight. For 3 years, this cycle continues. By torchlight, as the suitors snore in a drunken stupor or gamble on the palace floors, Penelope returns to the loom. Her fingers, stained with dye, move with a subversive dexterity. She does not weave, she unweaves. She picks apart the labor of the day, pulling the threads loose, row by row, unraveling the fabric of the future she promised to them. It is an act of supreme, magical defiance. The shroud grows, but it never finishes. It is a perfect geometric paradox, creation equaling destruction. She holds time itself in a stasis loop. As long as the shroud is incomplete, Laertes lives, and she remains a grieving daughter-in-law, not a wife. The image is cinematic in its power. The queen of Ithaca, alone in the shadows, her eyes straining against the dark, destroying the work of her own hands to buy time for a husband who may never return. She is fighting a war of attrition. She is starving them of their prize. She is the only wall standing between the usurpers and the throne. But fate is a cruel weaver, and the threads eventually tangle. For 3 years, she deceives them, a feat of mental stamina that rivals any physical feat of Heracles. However, secrets in a palace are hard to keep. One night, a traitorous servant Womena, one of the maids who has bedded one of the suitors, sneaks into the hall and catches the queen in the act. The shuttle stops. The secret is out. The treachery is exposed to the morning light. The suitors are furious. The illusion of the pious, submissive wife shatters. They storm the chamber, catching her in the act of unraveling her work. They stand over her, their patience exhausted, their cruelty bared. They demand the shroud be finished. They demand the marriage. They threaten her. The narrative tension here is palpable. The trick has run its course, and the wolves are no longer content to wait outside. They are inside the room, snarling. Penelope is cornered. She has no more tricks left in her spindle. She is forced to finish the shroud. The last thread is woven. The trap has snapped shut. The suitors begin the preparations for the wedding feast. It seems the end has arrived. The queen has lost the game. But myths are rarely about what they seem. The unweaving was never meant to be permanent. It was a delay, a holding pattern. The true power of the myth lies in the timing. The very day the shroud is finished, the very day the suitors force her hand, the wheels of fate turn. Odysseus returns. Disguised as a beggar, he walks through the slaughter of his own hall, stringing his bow, and with the help of his son and his loyal wife, he slaughters the suitors. This brings us to the deeper currents running beneath this story. To the ancient Greeks, Penelope was the embodiment of sophrosyne, a moderation, self-control, and wisdom. While Clytemnestra, the other great wife of the Trojan War era, murdered her husband Agamemnon upon his return, Penelope waited. But she did not wait passively. She is the dual nature of survival. She is the loyal wife keeping the hearth fire burning, but she is also the cunning politician outmaneuvering a room full of men. Her loom is not just a tool of domesticity, it is a weapon of war. In a culture where women were supposed to be silent, Penelope spoke loudest through her actions. She represents the tension between fate, the inevitable course of events, and will, the human ability to manipulate the details of the journey. She could not stop the suitors from coming, but she could control the speed at which they conquered. She proves that endurance is a form of aggression. The legacy of Penelope's loom has rippled through the centuries, tangling itself into the very fabric of our language. When we speak of a Penelope in archaic terms, we speak of a faithful wife, but the idiom unweaving the web has become a universal metaphor for stalling, for destroying one's own work to buy time, or for the frustration of Sisyphean tasks. Artists throughout Historia, from the ancient vase painters who depicted her at the loom to modern authors like Margaret Atwood and Madeleine Malera, have returned to her. She is the original feminist hero, a woman who refuses to let men write the ending of her story. She weaves her own narrative, thread by painstaking thread. In the end, the loom stands silent in the halls of Ithaca, the work finally done. But the echo of that nightly unraveling remains. It reminds us that survival is not always about the grand.